Now, a couple of things you're going to need at this step is a sharp pencil, because we're going to want to clearly mark the line that we're going to cut on. You're also going to need some sort of straight edge or a big carpenter square. Come in real handy. You're going to need a circular saw. If you've noticed, I've taped the bottom shoe of this circular saw, and that is because the metal will leave a mark on the soft paint of that door if we don't tape it. So I've done a quick tape job. I've just run some pieces of masking tape to cover all of the foot that's going to contact the door. And this would be fine for cutting like one door. It's not a problem. But if you're cutting multiple doors, you're going to want to keep checking this as you go along, that one piece didn't get pulled back and therefore is going to leave a mark on the door. Your saw is correctly adjusted to make the cut smoothly, quickly as possible without leaving jagged, splintery edges or being a danger as far as cutting through your fingers completely off. If it's properly adjusted, chances are you'll only make a deep cut in your fingers, probably to the bone but not through. And that's your depth of cut. So let's go get that door and bring it out here. Well, we've got our door outside. Now this is a panel door. It's a 6-panel door because it has 6 of these panels in it. You don't want to get too overconfident for a couple of reasons. Number one is you want to cut the right end of the door. You know, if you like during the trip out to wherever you're going to cut it, and I do recommend cutting it outside because it does make a lot of sawdust and stuff. You don't want to like mix up the top and end up cutting the top of the door off. That's a nightmare. You would have to glue it back on, a couple of nails to hold it while the glue dries, sand it, wood putty, and to fix the top of the door, or else get a new door and deal with mortising the hinges, setting the lock, sand, prime, and paint. Big nightmare. Alright, so you want to make sure you cut the bottom of the door. And a couple of ways you could tell is by looking at the panels, to make sure, like, because there'll always be dust on this one, but not on the top edge, okay? If any, in the past, if there was any splatters on the door, they would drip down, so you could use that as an index of which way's up and down. The top edge of the door will always be dusty and dirty, where the bottom edge won't. So that's just a couple ways real quick you could tell if the door is right side up or upside down. And again, we want to be careful taking it out of the house that we didn't like hit the ceiling or mark up the walls or anything like that, because it is big and awkward. But we do have these hinges sticking out. We want to make sure we don't scratch those when we lay it down and do our cut. And also the doorknob, don't forget the doorknob is still sticking out, so we want to be careful of the door hardware. So I've placed the door gently in the truck as not to scratch the hardware and not to scratch the paint on the door. Now we're going to mark our cut, and then we're going to proceed to cut. So here's the bottom edge of our door, and again a couple of quick references. There's a lot of shoe marks on it and stuff from getting hit because it's the bottom edge. If I had reversed it and it was the top edge, I could, you know, quickly just double check that indeed I'm cutting the right edge of the door. We're going to take our carpenter square, and our nice sharp pencil. Now this door we're going to take about 1/4 inch off. If you're dealing with cutting this door because of a new carpet, you're always better sneaking up on the correct length of the door. In other words, making a couple of cuts rather than making one cut that's too big and you end up with a door with like 1 inch at the bottom, you know. So if I would first take like 1/4 inch and then bring it back in and mount it on the hinges and see if it's rubbing the carpet, and then take it outside and go with a couple of cuts. It's always better than judging, you know, oh, I got to take 1.5 inches off, and then you end up with a door that looks way too short. It looks like one of those idiots with the high water pants. You know, the pants are pulled all the way up and just looks stupid, and doors are there forever. So for the next like 40 years, if you got the house, that door is going to look like idiotic because you took too much off. So it's important. It's better to sneak up with a couple of cuts. But this door, we just have that little throw rug to deal with. So we're going to take like a 1/4 inch. I'm going to mark at 1/4 inch, and when I cut it, I'm going to take the mark. So I'm not going to put the saw inside of the mark or outside of the mark. I'm going to take the mark. That's a little carpenter slang. Like 1/4 inch, leave the mark. You know, so that means like inside the mark. Or 1/4 inch, take the mark. So we're going to do 1/4 inch and take the mark. So we're actually 1/4 inch, take the mark. So using my carpenter square, I'm going to mark the 1/4 inch. And then coming over here and aligning it with the edge of the door, so I get a nice straight mark across. I'm going to come to my reference 1/4 inch. And now we flip it over because the carpenter square not long enough to get the whole door. So we flip it over and then we line this up with our mark that we already made on that straight edge of the door. And we just continue it. Okay? 1/4 inch, and we're going to take the mark. Now I want to show you something. So excuse my camera work here. I'm just going to show you that this door has been cut once already, and it was cut crooked, as you could see, because I've just done a straight edge with my carpenter square. Follow the line. It gets skinnier over here than over here. So if you really look down the edge, you can see that it was cut before and it's not a straight cut. So we're going to correct that right now. We're going to make this door look really nice. My angle of cut on my blade with the carpenter square, by placing it on the shoe and checking that I got a nice 90-degree cut. And again, I'm annotating to that video on adjusting your saw blade, and all of this stuff is real important. You don't want to skip these steps. So I'm going to line the saw up, and I'm going to take this mark all the way across in one fluid motion. If I have to stop, I'm just going to take my hand off the trigger and let the saw stop, and then move my body and then start the saw in the same, pull it back like a 1/4 inch, start the saw and continue that cut. So you'll probably see me do that, and pay attention because you may have to do the same thing. And once the saw starts, you'll probably have a little trouble hearing me, so I won't talk. But as I cut, when I get to about here, I'm going to take one hand and reach and just pull the little sliver that's getting cut off. I'm just going to pull it to give clearance for the saw blade, that it can make that nice long cut without getting sandwiched in the wood, and maybe the blade slows down a little bit or something like that. It's not a big deal, but you'll watch what I do with my free hand when I grab. So if you noticed, I took that with my free hand and I just separated it a little to give some room for that saw blade to go. We made our nice straight cut. This had been a Luan door, like a plywood door. When the saw blade is gonna like splinter up the top edge, it just has to do with the rotation of the blade and the grain of the plywood. So what I would have done is after pencil marking my cut, I would have moved the carpenter square up like a 1/16 of an inch, just out of range of the saw blade, which is an 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, so the cut is an 1/8 of an inch, so just above the range of the saw blade. And I would have taken a sharp utility knife, a razor knife, and I would have scored into the Luan plywood. I would have scored just above the cut, using the straight edge as a guide, and that way when you get those little splinters, they break off right at your utility knife cut. They don't go up and make the door look like a jagged edge. Okay, that's important, and I'm sorry that I stuck it in at this point of the video after the cut, but if you guys are paying attention, you're going to understand what I'm saying. Just above the cut, you're going to score through the plywood, and that's not a door like this. That would be a Luan door, like a hollow core door. Just above the cut, score the top, because the circular saw with the blade rotation, it's going to splinter the top. You're going to score it so those splinters break off in a controlled control with your score mark where the splinters are, and that'll make a nice cut. Maybe I'm gonna take a little piece of sandpaper. I'm just gonna round off the edges. And this is the piece we took off, but it's actually 3 pieces. It's just the way the door is constructed. You can see because of these panels, they use this stile and rail, they call construction, this stile and rail, or frame and panel they call it. But these are actually tongue and groove pieces that interlock, and you know what I mean? So it's actually 3 pieces we took off, but it was really just the one cut. And that's just more of that knowledge I'm kicking at you guys, so. And we want to make sure, my YouTube friends, that masking tape we use to protect the paint on the door, the masking tape we put on the shoe with the saw, take that off when you're done. You never want to leave any masking tape on any project more than a couple of days, because it dries out and it gets like the hardest thing in the world to remove. You can actually ruin your saw shoe or whatever you put it on, molding or whatever in your house around a window. If you leave it on like 6 months and come back and try to get it off, it ain't coming off. So take it off as soon as you're done. And that goes for all kind of painting projects and whatever, from auto body to painting your house or protecting a saw shoe, whatever. Get that masking tape off quick as possible. Now I'm gonna bring that door in here. I'm gonna put that top hinge pin in first. Maybe if it was a carpeted room, and like I said, you got to sneak up on those cuts, maybe I'm not going to stick the pin all the way down, but maybe like a quarter way in, hold it in place. I'm going to put the bottom a quarter way in, hold it in place. I'm going to check the swing of the door that it clearances whatever we want it to clearance. Then I can put the pins in all the way and just tap them in so they look nice, and the job's done. And again, be careful of the ceiling, the walls, because you can scratch not only the house, but you could scratch the door up, so we want to be careful. Just kind of line it up. Okay, that's good. Only wants it in a little bit. Gonna get that bottom, just a little bit. So I just have this in. Just enough, and the bottom one, just enough. That one's still sitting there, that's the middle one. But what I want to do is check. Okay, we got nice clearance, and yet we didn't take too much off. But the door looks ugly, and it's a nice straight cut, looking really handsome. And something like a bathroom door, it's really important that you just take off what you need, because number one, sounds come out, you know, of people doing stuff, and smells and stuff like that. So you want to definitely have just enough for your clearance, but not too much that stuff comes out. Just gonna finish this up here. And remember, these pins are, and this job's done. So guys, thanks for watching. You know I love my YouTube friends, and I really enjoy helping you guys. Use the inbox, any questions, any comments right down below. That's what that comment box is there for, questions and comments. And now that the video's over, please rate it, because it really helps me out with this YouTube gig. And don't forget, please subscribe to my channel while you're here. It's Dino Pinch from the Handyman Zone saying, see you later.